A man stands alone in the center of a newly planted orchard. The dirt is still fresh on his skin. They read it as a sweet, domestic prelude to human history. But if you look closer at the Hebrew text, the stakes are infinitely higher. The fruit is eaten. The ground is cursed. The heavy wooden gates close behind them. And the moment the man and the woman step out of the garden and into the brutal reality of the wilderness, this perfect architectural symmetry is violently contested. You turn the metal lock on your front door. You touch the cold wood of your kitchen table. You sit across from the person you swore to build a life with. You look at the unpaid bills. You look at the terrifying task of raising children in a world that feels like it is burning. If you are the man, you feel the crushing pressure to have all the answers. If you are the woman, you feel the quiet resentment of being sidelined. The fracture is everywhere. We are a species living outside the garden gates. We build our marriages on top of a fault line. We enforce a chain of command. We assign a leader and a follower. We draw the vertical line. And then we wonder why the house is tearing itself apart. You hear it in the tired arguments that rattle the bedroom windows. You feel it in the exhaustion of trying to survive a modern economy alone. You see it in the church pews. The Creator looks at the single human and pronounces the very first defect in the history of the cosmos. Loto, not good, where brilliant, capable women are handed a broom instead of a sword. You are living in the direct shadow of Genesis chapter 3. When the humans rebel in the dirt, the symmetry shatters. The fruit is swallowed. The eyes are opened. The hiding begins. God walks through the rustling leaves of the trees. He finds the man and the woman wearing fig leaves, shivering in the cool breeze of the evening. The man blames the woman. The woman blames the serpent. The unity dissolves into sheer self-preservation, and God speaks the tragic consequence into existence. He looks at the woman. He says, "Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you." Rule over. Hierarchy. Subjugation. This is the exact moment the vertical line is carved into human history. Most people read this verse and think they are looking at the divine order of marriage. They think God is finally establishing the management structure of the home. They build entire theological systems on the idea that men are designed to rule and women are designed to submit. Hierarchy is not the original blueprint. It is the shattered aftermath. Dominance is not a design. It is a curse. When you tell a woman her highest spiritual calling is to be small, you are not preaching the garden. You are enforcing the exile. The first flaw in the universe is not a sin. It is a solitude. The man is entirely incapable of fulfilling the mandate. When you tell a man he must carry the absolute burden of spiritual and physical leadership entirely alone, you are not giving him a biblical mandate. You are handing him an ancient death sentence. You are asking him to survive a screaming battlefield without his Ezer. You are demanding he hold up a collapsing roof with only one load-bearing wall. The structure will buckle. It always buckles. We were never meant to carry the weight of the world on a vertical axis. The design was meant to be a flawless, unbreakable horizontal plane. But there is a way to reverse the curse. There is a way to look at the person sitting across the table and drop the modern corporate management structure completely. When an architect unrolls a blueprint that has been dragged through the mud, they do not look at the dark water stains and the smeared ink and decide to build a crooked house. They recognize the damage. They look past the dirt to find the original lines drawn on the thick parchment. Yet, this is exactly what we have done with the human design. We have mistaken the disease for the instruction manual. We take the broken, bleeding aftermath of the garden, exile the hierarchy, the power struggle, the desperate need to rule over someone else, and we enshrine it to steward the earth by himself. He is facing a task that will crush him. Standing in a garden he cannot cultivate alone, as the divine standard. We point to the curse of Genesis chapter 3 and call it the natural order of a holy home. The curse is not a set of instructions. It is a diagnosis. To reverse the catastrophic damage of the wilderness, we have to stop building our relationships on a shattered foundation. We have to walk back to the beginning. We have to return to the uncorrupted dirt of Genesis chapter 2. When you strip away the modern English translations and reconstruct the ancient Hebrew geometry, a completely different structure rises from the ground. The word ezer demands a mutual rescue. It means you do not treat the person sitting across from you as a domestic accessory to your own ambition. You recognize them as the cavalry sent into the blinding smoke of a battlefield, amidst the clash of iron and the taste of dust in the air, to keep you from being utterly destroyed. The word kenegdo demands eye contact. It means you do not walk 3 paces ahead, and you do not trail quietly behind. You stand entirely level, looking directly across into eyes that hold the exact same divine reflection as your own. And the tisala demands an equal distribution of the crushing weight. When the winter storms hit the exterior walls, you do not let one beam carry the stress until the wood splinters and fractures. You lock your lateral side against theirs, acting as twin pillars to hold up the heavy roof. The solution God provides has been debated, weaponized, and fundamentally misunderstood for thousands of years. The woman is not an afterthought of your shared life. Partnership is not a division of labor. It is a multiplication of strength. A relationship built on this ancient blueprint operates entirely differently than a modern corporate chain of command. It is immune to the power struggles of the exile because it refuses to draw a vertical line. It replaces the exhausted, lonely leader and the resentful, silenced follower with 2 warriors standing shoulder to shoulder in the dark. But recovering this lost translation does more than just fix the broken mechanics of human marriage. It points directly to the ultimate rescue operation waiting at the very end of the biblical scroll. The Creator looked at a solitary man in the dirt and pronounced the first defect in the cosmos. The English translators carved a domesticated word and built a hierarchy of secondary importance. A king screamed from a jagged, bloody ridge, and the true identity of the rescuer was revealed. A spatial prefix locked 2 forces face to face and established an unbreakable horizontal symmetry. A deep sleep allowed the architect to extract a side and form a twin pillar to hold up the world. The humans swallowed a cursed fruit, and a brutal chain of command fractured the garden design. But the ancient scroll preserves she is a rescue operation. To feel the weight of this story, you have to step past centuries of cultural baggage, medieval hierarchy, original ink to show us how to survive the wilderness together. One blueprint, one design. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the architecture. The detail hiding in plain sight in the construction logs of ancient Jerusalem. The exact same word used for the massive wooden chambers wrapping the exterior of Solomon's grand temple is the word used for the woman waking up in the cool evening air. Not a spare rib, not a fragile fragment of bone. The entire lateral side of a sacred building. If you are in a season where you feel like an afterthought in your own home, or if you are completely exhausted from carrying the crushing, isolated weight of trying to lead everything alone, Genesis chapter 2 is a place to breathe. The garden does not demand you fall in line. It demands you lock your hands together. Your design is not an accessory. It is a load-bearing wall. And may the God who never intended for you to cultivate the earth in isolation walk with you through the thorns of the wilderness and give you the grace and modern assumptions. You have to go back to the original language, before the text was filtered through kings and councils, to stand exactly face to face with the ones you love. If this opened something in you, subscribe. Leave a comment. Even one word helps. Share this with someone who needs to remember their original design. Pray for us as we keep digging into these ancient texts. You have to look at the exact phrase God uses to describe what He is about to build in the dirt, because the confusion we carry about marriage, about purpose, and about each other does not start with modern culture. It starts with a single English word, a word printed in almost every standard translation for the last 5. The smell of damp earth and crushed leaves heavy in the early air. Animals pass by him in pairs, the heavy strike of hooves on stone. 100 years. A word that sounds innocent, but has quietly dismantled the original blueprint of the garden. The word sits quietly in the middle of Genesis chapter 2, Verse 18. I will make him a helper fit for him. When we hear that word today, our brains immediately construct a specific image. We picture a plumber's apprentice handing a heavy wrench under a leaking iron pipe. We picture a young child clumsily holding a plastic dustpan while a parent sweeps the kitchen floor. We picture a corporate assistant organizing a calendar, pouring the coffee, standing just outside the glass doors of the boardroom while the real decisions are made inside. In the modern English dictionary, a helper is not an anchor. It is an accessory. We are a species that builds our reality entirely on language. The words we use act as the invisible scaffolding for our relationships. And this specific translation has shaped the subconscious architecture of millions of homes. When a woman is told her divine design is to be a helper, she is handed a script of secondary importance. The man is the main character. She is the supporting cast. We have built entire theological frameworks around a linguistic accident. We have taken half of the human race and told them their highest spiritual achievement is to fade into the background. The frantic flutter of wings, the low rumble of beasts, walking shoulder to shoulder in the cool of the day. And the tragic irony is that this modern interpretation is the exact opposite of the power described in the ancient scroll. When the translators of the King James Bible carved this phrase into English text in 1611, the word help carried a much heavier, more desperate weight. In the 17th century, it meant to supply what was lacking in a life or death survival situation. But languages breathe. They shift. Over 400 years, the word lost its teeth. It shrank from the theater of survival down to the domestic parlor room. It became safe. It became domesticated. We read the text through the lens of our current vocabulary. And in doing so, we completely misread the Creator's intent. We look at the garden and see an executive getting an assistant to help him catalog the animals and prune the fig trees. But if you bypass the English translation, if you strip away centuries of domesticated theology and dig your hands into the ancient Hebrew text, that's safe. Domestic imagery shatters completely. The word God actually speaks into the quiet air of Eden has nothing to do with holding a clipboard. It is a word drawn straight from the blood, the panic, and the dust of ancient warfare. A king stands on a jagged ridge. The air tastes like copper and dust. Iron clashes against iron in the valley below. He watches them. He names them. And for the first time since the lights were hung in the dark sky, arrows darken the sun. His front line shatters. He is entirely surrounded. He looks up to the mountains and screams a desperate prayer for survival. This is the scene in Psalm 121. David writes, I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? The word David cries out in the blood and chaos of war is the Hebrew Ezar. It is the exact same word God speaks in the quiet dirt of Eden in Genesis chapter 2. Verse 18. The word translated in your English Bible as helper is Ezer. It appears exactly 21 times in the Old Testament text. Its origins go deep into ancient soil. Drawn from two older Semitic roots, Azar, meaning to rescue or save, and Gasser, meaning to be strong. Look at how those 21 occurrences are distributed. Twice. The word describes the woman in the garden. 3 times. It describes neighboring nations that Israel calls upon for emergency military reinforcements. It paints a picture of foreign armies rolling over the horizon, with chariots and spears to save a collapsing infantry. And 16 times, it is used to describe God himself. Moses flees the empire of Egypt. He walks through the burning sand of the desert. He survives the wasteland. A cold silence settles over the dirt. Something is wrong. Up until this exact moment, the rhythm of creation has been at a flawless metronome. He holds his newborn son in his arms and names him Eliezer. My God is my Ezer. Exodus chapter 18. Verse 4 tells us exactly why. Moses says, The God of my father was my Ezer, and he delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. God is the shield. God is the cavalry. God is the one who pulls you from the fire when your own strength fails. You cannot look at the sword of Pharaoh and call God an administrative assistant. You cannot look at a battlefield and call God a subordinate to the king. The Creator is not a secondary character. He is the rescuer. When God looks at the man in the garden, isolated and overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the earth, He does not create a subordinate. He creates an equal force. He sends in the cavalry, and Ezer is not a domestic title. It is a military designation. The woman was designed to be a lifesaver. She steps into the breach to accomplish what the man could never survive alone. She brings a strength he fundamentally lacks. The text is completely devoid of hierarchy. It is a story of sheer survival, but Ezer is only the first half of the equation. God does not just drop an Ezer into the garden and walk away. He attaches a second Hebrew word to her title. It is a spatial word. Light breaks the dark. It is good. Dry land splits the sea. It is good. Roots grip the soil. It is good. A detail about geometry and physical proximity. And it completely destroys the modern assumptions of who is meant to lead and who is meant to follow. In the architecture of human relationships, we are obsessed with vertical lines. We want to know who is at the top of the pyramid and who is at the bottom. We look for the organizational chart, the chain of command, the leader, and the follower. When the English text says helper fit for him, we naturally impose this vertical structure. We assume the man is the primary architect, and the woman is the tailored assistant, shaped specifically to accommodate his vision. But the ancient Hebrew text refuses to draw a vertical line. It draws a horizontal one. The complete phrase, God speaks, is Ezer kenegdo. The word kenegdo is a preposition of physical space and proximity. Its root is the Hebrew word neged, which simply means front, or in front of. The prefix k means like or as, and the suffix o means him. When you fuse the grammar together, the literal translation of kenegdo is like what is in front of him. It means corresponding to him or standing face to face. Imagine holding your hands out in front of you, palms pressing firmly against each other. You can feel the skin pulling tight, the tendons flexing under the pressure. The left hand does not lead the right. Again and again, the Creator looks at his handiwork and pronounces it whole, complete, functioning exactly as designed. The right hand does not subjugate the left. They match perfectly, bone for bone, applying equal and opposite force to hold an object perfectly suspended in the air. This is the exact spatial reality of kenegdo. It is not a shadow walking quietly behind him. It is a counterpart standing eye to eye. When we miss this horizontal geometry, we break the engine of human partnership. We force one half of humanity to carry a weight meant for two, and we force the other half to shrink their divine capacity to fit a secondary, subordinate role. We take a mutual rescue operation and downgrade it into a management structure. If hearing these ancient words, stripped of their modern cultural baggage, is unlocking something in your chest, you're exactly who this channel is for. Subscribe and leave a comment below. Because every week, we dig past the English translations to recover the original fire of these texts. So, the man and the woman stand face to face in the dirt. Two equal forces, matching in strength, holding the terrifying weight of the human mandate between them. The geometry of Eden is perfectly symmetrical. There is no superior and inferior. There is only a mirrored reflection of divine capacity, breathing in the garden. But the profound equality of this design is not just encoded in the abstract vocabulary of Ezer and kenegdo. It is carved directly into the physical anatomy of how she was actually formed. Most people read this moment in Genesis chapter 2 and assume they are looking at a story about simple loneliness. To see the ultimate proof of this horizontal blueprint, you have to look past the linguistic phrasing and examine the surgical operation itself. Because the physical material God extracts from the man hides a translation error even larger than the first. The sun sets over the garden. A heavy shadow falls across the dirt. The Creator places the man into a deep, supernatural trance. The Hebrew word is tardama. It is not a light afternoon rest. It is an overwhelming, anesthetic sleep. His breathing slows in the cool evening air. His eyes close. And the Creator approaches the sleeping figure to perform the first surgical operation in human history. Read Genesis chapter 2. Verse 21. God opens the man's flesh. He extracts a piece of the human frame. He closes the bleeding wound. He builds the woman. For centuries, classical paintings and traditional teachings have told you exactly what that extracted piece was. A single bone, a curved rib, a small spare part pulled from the chest cavity, a minor fraction of the whole. But the original language tells a completely different story. The word your English translation calls a rib is the Hebrew word tesela. It is a word that appears over 40 times in the Old Testament scrolls. And out of all those occurrences, Genesis chapter 2 is the only place in the entire biblical library. They think God looked down, saw a man looking a little sad by the river, and decided to make a companion to keep him company, where translators decided to shrink it down into a single rib. Everywhere else, the word is massive. Read the blueprints for the wilderness tabernacle. When Moses constructs the Ark of the Covenant, he is instructed to attach heavy golden rings to its tela, its side. Read the construction logs of ancient Jerusalem. When King Solomon builds the Grand Temple, the massive wooden chambers wrapping the exterior of the structure are called the tesela, its side. Tela is an architectural term. It does not describe a minor skeletal fragment. It describes the entire lateral side of a sacred building. The tesela is not a spare part. It is a load-bearing wall. When the Creator bends down into the dirt of Eden, he does not pull an insignificant bone from the man's chest. He bisects the human structure. He takes one entire side of humanity, half of the physical strength, half of the spiritual capacity, a half of the divine image, and he shapes it into the woman. They are two halves of a single, sacred architecture. They are built to stand side by side. They are designed to hold up the heavy roof of creation together. When the man wakes up from his heavy sleep and opens his eyes, he does not look down at a subordinate carved from a fragment of his frame. He looks directly across at his exact structural equal. The geometry of the garden is flawless, but the safety of Eden does not last.